Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Minaa B, and for this video I want to share with you guys some really powerful books that you should be incorporating in your reading list. I am a huge fan of reading. I'm also a writer. My first book was a collection of essays and poems on healing from depression and trauma, but now I have converted over to fiction writing, and so my second book is fiction, and I'm actually in the process of just going over my last draft and then hopefully finding a literary agent to pick up my work. And I'm going to also be sharing more videos with you guys on the writing process and tools, becoming a writer, and things like that. So in this collection, I have two fiction books that I'm going to start off with to share with you all. And this selection isn't really that huge. Where are they? Okay, so I have these two books right here. So the first book is The Alchemist. Alchemist is a pretty old book, but it's a classic. It's been revised. Like, it's an amazing book. You know, this boy goes on like a quest, and basically within this journey he's basically searching outwardly for something, but this journey helps him to really look inwardly, and he discovers a lot about himself, his capabilities, and he gains a lot of wisdom through that outward process. And I think we're all out here searching for something. We're all out here searching for things that make us whole, and for things that we think will make us whole. And I think through the journey, sometimes things happen that we open our eyes to those things, and we really begin to redefine who we are from the inside out. And I personally feel like that's the whole point of this, of understanding who you are from the inside out, just because the world will consistently try to tell you who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to live your life and all these things. And I think sometimes we really need to learn how to tune the world out and look within and look at the things that define us and who we are as people. And if we don't know who we are, then it's going to be easy to allow the world to influence who you are and to tell you who to be. And I think that this is a really powerful book, and just really understanding the human heart and learning how to look within, and understanding that you can be satisfied with who you are and what you have inwardly without always having to be on a quest to search for outward things. You know, once you're at peace with who you are, everything else in the world kind of fades away. So The Alchemist is an amazing book that you should have on your bookshelf at all times. The second book I recommend is also another fiction book, and it's called One Crazy Summer. You guys can see it. This is actually a series. It's the first book out of 3. I have not ordered the other 2 books as of yet, because I have a bunch of other books that are on my bookshelf that I've been trying to finish. But this is a short read. I feel like it's a children's book. It's basically 3 teenagers, 3 young girls who they're born and raised in Brooklyn, and their mom basically abandons them and moves to California. And so they're being raised by their grandparents. However, one summer their grandparents decide to send them to meet their mom, and the story is told from the point of view of the 13-year-old, the oldest sibling. And so basically they go out there and they find out their mom is a Black Panther. The mom is very distant. The mom is very cold. This is in the era of the 60s, and so they get exposed to like the lifestyle of Black Panthers, and they get exposed to things like racism and discrimination and what that is, and the whole Black Panther movement. And I feel like this is just a powerful book because it really hits the nail on the head when it comes to race, when it comes to, you know, fighting the fight. And I love that it's told within the point of view of a 13-year-old, because I think sometimes when we're talking about topics like that, we don't really pay attention to, or I don't want to say pay attention, but sometimes we don't really think deeply into how these conversations are affecting young children, because a lot of the time we want to hope and believe that our children are pure and they're not being exposed to the ways of the world, but the reality is they are. So I would definitely incorporate this book into your reading list. Now, the next few books that I have are really more so self-help books. I'm going to be biased, and I'm going to insert my book first, okay? Rivers Are Coming is my first book. This is my heart, y'all. It's like I said before, it's a collection of essays and poems on healing from depression and trauma. I'm going to share in another video with you guys my story, but basically I have struggled with depression since I was 5 years old. On and off, I've gone through phases of being on medication, being off on medication. I've also gone through phases of dealing with suicidal ideation and having a strong addiction to cutting myself. And I talk about all of that in this book. And I also just share some poems on how I healed and just my whole process altogether. So the goal of this book is to really, number one, remind people that you're not alone in your struggles. As a Black woman, I feel like we are not necessarily exposed to mental health in the media the way white people are. And I also feel like as a Black woman and also as a Black therapist, I know in the Black community there's such a strong stigma around mental health. And so I just hope that my book encourages people to, number one, understand that you're not alone. Number two, understand that because you struggle with the mental illness does not mean you're crazy. It does not mean that you are unworthy. None of that. We're all human, and that's the whole point of this book, to shed light on the fact that we're all human. We all are facing life differently, and we all go through different struggles. And the whole point is that I hope that we can all find healing through the process and not be ashamed of that, because shame is not going to help you on the path to healing. And so this is the book, Rivers Are Coming. You can find it. It's like really bright, my light in here today. So I don't know if you guys can really see the cover of this because it's a really, really light cover. But the link to this will be down. The link to all the books will be down in the description box. Now, the next book to piggyback off of Race is this book. I'm sure you guys have seen this book all over the place. Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I hope I said his name right. This is a book written by a Black man to his 13-year-old son. And it hit home for me as a Black woman so powerfully, just because I love the fact that this is him just sharing his story. And I think we need more of that. We need more intimate stories out there in the world so that we can start to like see these are the things that people go through, and this is why they are the way they are, and this is why they see the world the way they see the world. Because I think sometimes, especially when it comes to race, like people don't understand the experiences of Black people, and so therefore you hear these comments like, well, why are you always making everything about race? This book will tell you why a lot of people are always making things about race, because it's real. It's a real issue. Come on, wake up. It's a real issue in our country, and we have to open our eyes to it. And so I feel like in this book, he just talks about so many things that hit home for me, even as a Black woman. And so I encourage people to read this book, number one, because I feel like we really need to open our eyes to the struggles that a lot of people face and stop being in denial. But also, if you're not a person of color, but you swear and you think you know everything about people of color, stop it. Stop, because you don't. Stop. I feel like we really need to start understanding and listening to the stories of people of color. This is just a powerful book to me. It should be a recommended reading. It should be something that is incorporated in our classrooms. And I think that we all need to be a little more aware of what's happening, not only in our society through the media, but through stories of other people. Because I feel like media has a really, really harmful way of really distorting the images of Black people, and it does not necessarily help us a lot. It doesn't. Distorting the images of Black people do not help us at all. And I think the stories of Black people can be much more powerful coming from them rather than having people in the news and people writing articles about our experiences. Like, come on. Now my next book is a book that I think everyone should read in their entire lifetime. I mean, all these books that I recommend, you should be reading your entire lifetime. This book is called The Drama of the Gifted Child. It is a book that I had to read when I was in grad school. I have mentioned before, you know, as a social worker and becoming a licensed therapist, it's very important to be mindful of your experiences, because 9 times out of 10, people who become social workers have their own either trauma or experiences that they faced, and so therefore they moved into this arena where they want to help others, and that's a beautiful thing. However, I think we also need to be mindful of what those things are and make sure there's a lot of healing taking place in our lives, and this is a very, very powerful book. So it's not just recommended for other social workers. If you're watching, you're a social worker, I definitely recommend that you read this book, but I also recommend this book to my clients in therapy when I'm working with my clients who are dealing with trauma, especially childhood trauma. So I want to read this quote really quickly from her opening page. In order to become whole, we must try, in a long process, to discover our own personal truth, a truth that may cause pain before giving us a new sphere of freedom. And I think that is so true. I feel like people are always talking about finding their truth and living in their truth, but sometimes there's layers to our truth, and we need to peel those things back and sit with the root of a lot of the pain that we feel. And we recognize that sometimes we define our truths based off of like rocky foundations sometimes, because we haven't really sat with our pain. And I just think this book is just so enlightening. If you are somebody who you have struggled with trauma in your life, I would say this book is specifically for you. If you are someone who has a hard time trying to understand yourself, you're trying to find yourself, you're trying to find your identity, but you've also have gone through a lot of trauma in your childhood or in your life, and so you feel like those things are disrupting your ability to really live wholeheartedly in the moment, this is definitely a book for you. Now I have one more book for you guys, and it's actually a bonus book, and it is, it's so heavy, the Bible. I am a Christian, and so the Bible is just something that sets the foundation of my Christianity, and so this book might not be for you because you don't align with my beliefs. However, if you do align with my beliefs, or even if you don't, if you're curious, the Bible clearly is the way to start off. However, the reason why I'm specifically recommending the Bible is I'm recommending this specific Bible, which is called the Wayfinding Bible. The whole point of it is you're going to choose 3 different routes. So the first route is the blue route, which is the flyover route. The green route is the direct route, and the scenic route is the third route. And basically those 3 routes help you to figure out how you want to read the Bible. I'm just going to show this to you because I'm probably butchering all of this. So this is the book of Genesis, right? And so as you can see here, like I said before, these are the 3 different routes that you can choose. So basically, if you choose the flyover route, you will only need to make 7 stops in the book of Genesis, and it's basically giving you a small overview of like the most powerful stories in Genesis. And so when you turn the page, also I like this because before we get to that, it tells you all of the events that took place in Genesis. Like there's this whole timeline right here. So when we turn the page, you see like this is the beginning. So like right here, it's telling you that you're only going to be reading Genesis chapter 1 and 2 up to verse 25. And then it tells you like over here to move over to page 8 when you're done. And for this page, you're going to read Genesis chapter 3, verse 1 to 24. And then, boom, it says skip over to page 14 because that's where you're going to be reading next. So you're going to be skipping everything else in here. But if you were doing the direct route, you would be reading, you know, the same verses. However, you would just be moving to the next page. So this Bible is just really helpful in my opinion, just because number one, I have to be honest, I like that it's all nice and bright and colorful. And as you see here, the blue is not present, so that means if you're doing the flyover route, you will be skipping all of this. You wouldn't be reading any of that. But boom, here we are back to the flyover route, so therefore that means you would be stopping on this page. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button. Also, please remember to subscribe to my channel. I will have new videos for you guys every week, and until then, I'll see you all next time.